Rivera, spokesperson for the Portland Bureau of Transportation. This is the first briefing we're conducting as part of the Joint Information Center that the City of Portland has convened last week in response to the COVID-19 pandemic. Today we'll have updates from 6 speakers. First will be Mayor Ted Wheeler. Second will be Police Chief Jamie Resch. Third, we'll have Fire Chief Sarah Boone. Fourth, we'll have PBEM, Portland Bureau of Emergency Management Director Mike Myers. Then we'll have Tom Reinhardt, Chief Administrative Officer for the City of Portland. And finally, we'll have Chris Warner, Director of the Portland Bureau of Transportation. After our 6 speakers have concluded, we'll have time for questions from members of the media here in person and those on the phone. I'll be moderating that, and we'll try to take questions one by one. I'll try to call on media in an orderly fashion, and we appreciate your patience with us this morning as we are trying to exhibit and adhere to the social distancing guidance that have come from public health authorities. So with that, please let's start with our first speaker, Mayor Ted Wheeler.
That being said, Portland Fire was aggressive when this first started to come. Our personnel are outfitted with the highest level of protection, and this is something that we had planned for a long time. We are modifying our response to take most critical calls, emergency calls, hospitalizations, and we're going to direct you when it comes to mild symptoms, or if you feel sick, or if you have anxiety. First, call your healthcare professional. Call a non-emergency number. Call 211. But the 911 system is for people who are experiencing severe respiratory distress, high temperature, extended coughs. We are preserving the capacity on the response side. We are watching what is happening across the state, across the nation, Washington, New York, California, and we have been making strategic moves ahead of time to ensure that our capabilities and capacity are still functioning. Our workforce is protected. Our service is viable. We will continue to serve. Portland Fire is helping with our public safety partners. We are also working at the state, the county, as well as the city when it comes to ensuring that everything is coordinated. We're in every operation command center when it comes to the region and the state. With our fire agency partners, we're working under the state fire marshal. Portland Fire, Portland Police, the City of Portland are coordinating behind the scenes to ensure that everyone is taken care of. And when other systems fail or fall, we will still be here. We will be still providing services to the community. Thank you.
Well, good morning, everybody. Thank you, Chief Boone. My name is Mike Myers. I'm the Director of Emergency Management for the City of Portland. I'm going to take some liberty and speak to you from my heart. I have been in the emergency services business for over 30 years, primarily as a fire chief. I'm with you today as your Director of Emergency Management. Like you, and like I believe all the people behind me, we've never seen anything like this before. Just the magnitude of it. We opened our emergency coordination center early March, primarily to coordinate responses with Multnomah County Public Health, Multnomah County Office of Emergency Management, Oregon Health Authority, and the State Office of Emergency Management. And primarily to bring every resource we could possibly bring to bear on the situation. Whether that is opening shelters to de-densify the individuals that are already in temporary housing, if we're trying to organize childcare with our private partners so that first responders, doctors, nurses, grocers have access to childcare while they're essential employees and they're coming to work to help serve us, making sure that we have supply chains for national grocers to make sure that they're able to fill the shelves of our stores around our communities. This has been a never-ending task for those partners around the community. It takes an immense amount of teamwork. And present here today is a group of individuals that we work with closely, and I'm proud with them, but I'm also very proud of you as media. This is a communication crisis, and you have been on the front lines helping us communicate this message. And it's going to take teamwork for all of us to win this. So it's not just us here today talking about what we've done, it's every person in the city of Portland that we're counting on. We win if we work as a team. And frankly, we will fail if we don't. It is everybody in the city of Portland on the team today. So remember, stay home, save lives. I want to introduce to you the CAO of the City of Portland, Tom Reinhardt. Thank you.
Good morning. Keeping the city running is more challenging and more important than ever. Over the past week, as the city has directed everybody who can possibly telework to do so, we have focused on providing the tools and training to make that possible. That means making sure staff have access to Microsoft Teams, Zoom, and other conference tools, as well as access to our network when they need it. Technology is allowing many workers across the city to provide key services, such as the city's development services team, which is continuing to process permits like the mayor mentioned. Our facilities team is working tirelessly to keep buildings open for essential staff, to perform enhanced cleanings when we learn of potential exposure to the virus, and to enforce partial or full closures of buildings. Our fleet team has stepped up cleaning protocols and adjusted our staffing to make sure first responders can safely continue to serve the public with city vehicles and equipment. In recognition of the burden this pandemic is placing on our entire community, the city has temporarily taken a number of actions, many of which the mayor mentioned earlier. We have suspended pursuing collection on past due taxes, and we are also offering commercial tenants the opportunity to defer rent temporarily, in addition to their loan payments for 3 months. We have deployed 23 hand washing stations and 15 portable toilets across the city. And through our Parks and Recreation team, we are providing houseless individuals with access to bathrooms at dozens of parks across the city as well. These actions are an essential part of supporting the houseless community who are especially vulnerable during this crisis. Here's what we want the public to know. Please be aware that many city services have shifted online, reduced their hours, or temporarily suspended non-essential functions. Our top priority is to keep our core vital services going, like my colleagues previously mentioned. We are doing this to shift resources to our absolute highest priority needs to protect the health and safety of all Portlanders. For the latest information on service changes, please visit portland.gov. We will be updating it hourly. I also want people to know that you are being served by a passionate, dedicated team of public servants who truly care about this community. Every day we see city staff coming up with new, creative solutions, putting in extra hours, and putting our community first. I want to take this moment to thank the thousands of city employees doing that work. Many people have asked what you can do to help us. All Portland residents can help. We are in this together, and we're doing our best to serve you. Like Emergency Management Director Meyer said, please stay home. When you're out, please keep appropriate distance from one another. And as important as that, please stay connected to friends and loved ones. Please use the city website, portland.gov, as I mentioned earlier, to alert us to challenges with essential services, and know that we will do our best to restore non-essential services as soon as we are able. And now I'm going to turn it over to Transportation Director Chris Warner.
Thank you, Tom. Thank you, Mayor Wheeler, for your leadership during this unprecedented time. I also want to express the Commissioner Udaley, the Transportation Commissioner, wanted to be here today, but she is at home taking care of her son, who is very vulnerable to the coronavirus. So she just wanted me to relay to you that if you're able to stay home with your loved ones, please do that, because it's very important that we as a community come together to support those that are the most vulnerable in our community. I also want to thank my fellow Bureau Directors for their partnership as we coordinate these efforts and really bring Portlanders the service that they need in this really difficult time. As the Oregonian recently pointed out, the response to the coronavirus has in many ways been inspiring and has brought out the best in our community. I've really seen that in the dedicated employees at PBOT, and we've really adapted our work for this moment of crisis to find creative ways to help our transportation system keep it running and to help Portlanders get where they need to go. At PBOT, we've dramatically changed our operations to protect the health of our workers while continuing to deliver the services that Portlanders need. We really need to make sure that Portlanders can access the critical things like food and medical care. That's why our field crews are focusing their efforts on keeping the transportation system running and addressing the essential needs like sewer breaks or broken signals. In the last few days, our crews have cleared debris from the roads. They've responded to a dozen urgent sewer calls, and they've addressed over 70 emergency traffic sign repairs. To protect our medical system, we've also limited ridership on the Portland Aerial Tram to only hospital employees and patients, and we've also reduced the occupancy to 10 people at a time so we could really preserve the social distancing. We've also reduced the frequency of the streetcar. This will allow us to provide that vital service while decreasing the number of employees that are working at any one time. And to protect our employees, we've also instituted, as Tom said, a remote work policy for our critical PBOT staff so they can perform their work remotely. If Portlanders see an urgent street repair issue that needs to be reported, please call 503-823-1700. This is our street maintenance hotline, and it's staffed 24 hours a day. I really also want to urge Portlanders to travel with caution. With schools closed, there are more children out and about. Biking and walking have never been so important as people, take the time to get out of their houses. In this situation, you should assume that every street is a shared street. Watch out for your fellow Portlanders. Drive safely and slowly, especially in our neighborhoods. And finally, please follow the governor's order. Stay home, save lives. These days and weeks will really define us, and for this generation and beyond. I was born and raised in Oregon, and I know that this really is an unprecedented challenge. And as the mayor said, we really will get through this together. So stay safe out there, and know that PBOT's there to help.
Thank you, directors and chiefs and mayor. Now we'll take a few questions. I'll start here with the media who are present. If you want to give me your name and affiliation and question, then I'll repeat it for those participating by phone. Who's first? Who do we have? We have OPB, it looks like. Is that okay? Oh, sorry. Alex with the Mercury. Got it. Okay. Okay, so the question from Alex at the Mercury was for Chief Boone with Fire and Rescue. Understanding that the Bureau has been preparing for this sorts of situations with materials and training, what's the current status of the materials and especially protective equipment that firefighters have available? Chief Boone.
Thank you. So I just want to reiterate, this is a public health crisis, and fire also takes our lead from, at the federal level, the CDC, the state level, from the Oregon Health Authority, the county level, from Multnomah County Health Department. For fire, because we have to provide emergency medical services, our firefighters can actually be vectors to spread the disease. And so our Emergency Medical Services Director, Dr. Ju, has been working hand in hand with our EMS section to ensure our firefighters are adequately protected based on the appropriate level of care. We also know that we have to have redundancy built into our system because we are faced potentially every day with a worst case scenario, not just a viral spread. So we have redundancy in the system that we can increase to a higher level of protection. Our firefighters are trained in that, we've practiced in it, and they're ready. What the fire service is doing in order to preserve a short supply that on the treatment side of the 911 system, the nursing side, the healthcare side, and everybody else, we are moving to a higher level of protection that we can be self-sustainable, and then we can give our disposable surplus to people that need it. We are also working in a joint campaign with Multnomah County to use our fire facilities, our main distribution center, our logistics center, and putting out a public message for plea for disposable protection equipment. Portland Fire will always be there. We'll always be ready and always there. So we will help in any capacity that we can, but the public also has to remember that we are a critical infrastructure that we cannot fail to go down. We still have to provide services. That is on the emergency response side, and that is on the transport side. COVID is just one part of what our responses are. We still have fire, we still have industrial accidents, you still have people going to work, you still have river accidents. All of these things we have to be prepared to respond to. So the medical side is just one part, but we have the capacity to scale up and be self-sustainable.
Thank you, Chief. Any other questions here in the present? Yes.
Everton Bailey from the Oregonian. My question is to the Bureau Directors of the First Responders. What are you guys hearing from your workers out in the field dealing with coronavirus-related calls?
Okay, so Everton Bailey with the Oregonian. The question was for directors with first responders. What are you hearing from your staff in the field? What are they seeing? What are they experiencing when they're responding to calls for service, right? Okay, Chief.
Good morning again. Mainly what I'm hearing from the officers is their gratefulness for the flexibility that the community has provided as far as our unusual approach to calling you on the phone or asking you to step outside when there's a call for service. And they're grateful for that, but they're also concerned. They're concerned about unintentionally spreading this virus. They're concerned about coming into contact with this virus. So I think we've done a really good job as Bureau Directors trying to educate our employees as much as possible about what we're doing to try to prevent any of that from happening. But for the most part, I think that they're feeling supported, and I will continue to do everything I can to make sure that they know that from the top down we are doing everything to provide for their safety and the communities.
And I will say this again, this is a health threat. Firefighters, police, first responders, all of us are human beings. We're under the same threat as everybody else. We care for our families, we care for our loved ones, we care for our parents and kids, but we have to show up. We have to come to work. We're essential employees, and we're so critical to the services that get provided to citizens and communities across the state and across the nation. That's how essential first responders are. Not that we're putting ourselves at a higher priority, but we're also human beings. We don't have the choice to telework. We don't have the choice to stay home. And so when it comes to a viral spread, we're all susceptible to it. So we really are in this with everybody. We have the same fears, we have the same concerns, we have the same uncertainties, but we show up. We have to show up. So our priority as Bureau Directors is to ensure that our people are adequately protected so they can show up for you.
Great. Okay, another question from here first. Okay.
Did I hear you correctly that calls related to suicide are up 41%?
Question from OPB from Rebecca for the Chief Resch about calls for suicide. Is that correct?
Yeah, so what I stated was that calls for suicide attempts or suicide threats with or without a weapon are up 41% from this time in 2019, and they are up 23% from the 10 days prior to the state of emergency. What we wanted to do by highlighting that is to point out that we do know that people are struggling and that we are trying to get out as many resources to folks as possible by encouraging you to come in contact with your friends and your family, whether it's by phone, text, video chat, but check in with each other. Know that there are resources available. They are available on our website. They're available on the county website. Your true health and welfare are our top priority.
Okay. Is that the last question here? Okay. All right. I'm gonna go to the phone first, and I'll come back. So first, let's go to our pool, KGW. Is there a KGW reporter with a question on the phone?
Yes, Bill, it's Pat Norris. Question for the mayor. With all this going on, are you going to push back the arts tax deadline, or will it stay as it is?
Question from KGW, will the arts tax deadline be changed, mayor or administrative officer? Okay.
We are following the lead from the state of Oregon on all tax direction. We're waiting in terms of any deferral, but we're actively pursuing any ways to mitigate the impacts on both individuals and businesses, so stay tuned for more information on that.
And just to clarify, that was Tom Reinhardt, Chief Administrative Officer. Okay, next let's go Channel 6, Coin. Did you have a question on the phone?
Yes, thanks so much. Lisa Bailey from Coin. Question for Chief Resch relative to all the businesses, especially all the small businesses. What's happening in terms of protecting those businesses from any kind of possible looting or other kinds of situations that may occur with so many of them closed and not being watched?
Okay, so the question from Channel 6 was for Chief Resch, what's happening to prevent looting or other criminal activity around small businesses?
So as I mentioned a little bit earlier, we're actually, we're asking everybody to watch out for the areas. If you're out about and walking and you see something that's suspicious, please do call. Officers are responding to those calls for service. We also understand that there are large areas, business districts that are basically shut down, and we're asking all of our officers when they are on patrol to do extra patrols in all of those areas, look for anything that's suspicious, but we're highly encouraging folks to call in suspicious activity so that the officers have the ability to respond. We are aware that there are large areas that don't have a lot of people in them right now and that are vulnerable, and we are doing our best to do extra patrol in those areas.
Thanks, Chief. Next, I'll go to the phone. K2, Keaton, are you still on the phone? Do you have a question?
Yes, I am. Keaton with K2. The mayor mentioned potentially some relief for businesses that they're still working on. Is there anything specific you can tell us that the city is working on as it relates to providing help or relief to businesses in Portland?
So the question from Channel 2 was help for businesses in Portland.
Yes, thank you. And this is Ted Wheeler. We have already impaneled an economic impact committee. It has 3 different groups. We have a total of over 100 people: big business owners and operators, small business owners and operators, representatives from the restaurant industry, from the arts community, the culture community, from virtually every aspect of this community. We've been putting together strategies around how to actually provide immediate relief to businesses. The focus right now has been on small business owners and operators. So far, we've deployed funds to the Jade District. That was one of the first business districts to be impacted sharply by the COVID crisis. We are expanding those opportunities across the city. We're working collaboratively with business partners, with philanthropic partners, with banks and other institutions to create a larger pool of support for businesses, and we'll be talking more about that on Thursday. In addition, we're looking at all of our business operations, from fees to taxes to the regulatory environment, and working with our business owners and operators to talk about ways that we can support them and their employees throughout this crisis. So you'll be hearing much more in the days ahead in terms of how we can specifically help businesses. But we're already deploying resources. As you heard from the remarks previously, the City of Portland is in and of itself a large commercial landlord. We also extend loans to various businesses throughout the community. We have provided an extension of the repayment on both leases as well as loans, but there'll be much more to come.
Thank you, Mayor. Next on the phone, do we have a question from Fox 12 or anyone from Channel 12 on the line?
Yeah. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. This is Sarah Hurwitz with KPTV. And this message, or this question really is just for anybody who wants to chime in because homelessness and people living on the streets is touched on by several speakers today. My question is, what kind of resources are available for folks who are living on the streets? And then, also to talk about how tough it is in enforcing, social distancing and these kinds of guidelines. How would there be enforcement with folks who, are in these tough situations?
Okay. So the question from KPTV was about service to folks who are homeless and houseless, and then potential enforcement questions, right? Okay.
So I'll take that. This is Ted Wheeler. I'll take it first, then I'll turn it over to Mike Myers and others. But first of all, let's be clear. The governor's order applies to all Oregonians. So the social distancing requirements, as well as the exceptions in terms of travel. If a person is homeless in this community, they still have the ability to go to Blanchet House or seek additional services. Moreover, we have people going out into the community. We have 14 different organizations working collaboratively, going to camps and encouraging social distancing. The CDC came out with guidance yesterday saying that we should not disrupt camps. If we have groups of people that are already camping together, they should stay together. We should not be breaking those camps up and encouraging people to spread out across the community. The city and the county jointly have opened significant new sheltering opportunities. Today would be a great day to take advantage of those. We have both the Charles Jordan Center now online, as well as the Oregon Convention Center. We'll have the East Portland Community Center open by Thursday. In addition, we're extending the time frame for our winter shelter capacity. And in terms of camp cleanup, we have suspended camp cleanup based on the CDC guidance, except in the case where a camp puts the campers or the houseless individuals or others in the direct line of danger. For example, if somebody sets up a tent in an area where they could be hit by a car, they will be asked to move, but otherwise we're following the CDC guidance. And with regard to enforcement, I'll turn it over to Mike and then Chief Rush.
Good morning. Mike Myers, Director of Portland Bureau of Emergency Management. And Mayor, thank you. I thought that was an excellent summary of some of the things we've been doing over the past few weeks to find opportunities to kind of add more social distancing to those that are temporarily housed. So we have a lot of vulnerable population out there that is currently housed. These individuals are isolated and marginalized, some of our elderly community as well. So I want to give a shout out to nonprofits out there like Meals on Wheels, who is still making meals, is still out there as volunteers working with them, delivering these meals, doing welfare checks. We really have seen a lot of volunteers come together to help us expand this operation. It is difficult in regular times. It is even more difficult now. So we also have the neighborhood emergency teams that are out there. We have hundreds of volunteers that are standing ready to serve. They're operating outside of our emergency operations center right now, assisting us in there, and they're ready to be out in the community, finding out what needs are in the community and bringing that information back to the EOC so we can generate a response. So I wanted to make sure that we had the opportunity to thank those volunteers as well. So thank you.
As far as the enforcement efforts are concerned, enforcement in regards to criminal citations is going to be the last resort of the Portland Police Bureau. If there are communities that are in need of assistance, houseless populations, we will work with all of the resources available to try to make sure that we can find places for folks that do allow for proper social distancing. Like I said, the enforcement piece is going to be an educate first approach, so we know that everybody is fully aware of what the order allows and what it prohibits. We'll use every resource available to us to make sure that we can provide resources for the folks that we come into contact with, and again, stressing that citations will only be issued as a last resort.
Thank you. Next on the phone, did we have someone from KXL on the phone?
Yeah, Rosemary Reynolds, I'm still here. My question is for Mayor
question from KXL for the mayor. What would it take for the state of emergency to be lifted, and what would that look like for the state of emergency to be lifted in the city?
Thank you. So the state of emergency is in 2-week durations. It will come up for renewal on Wednesday. I will extend it. I'll be seeking my guidance from public health professionals, medical experts, and others. We're still in the upside of the contagion curve, so this would not be a good time for us to suspend the emergency declaration. We will eventually find ourselves at peak, and I've heard estimates of peak taking place sometime in Oregon between the 1st and the 2nd week of April, but I will take my guidance from public health experts as to when that happens, and then there will be some period of time beyond the peak that we will still maintain the state of emergency until we are sure that we're past the contagion. I will be relying heavily on public health officials and medical examiners to guide us as to when the best time is to lift the state of emergency. And when that state of emergency is lifted, it will be made quite public to people, and we will go back to business as usual, but we're not there yet. To be clear, right now the order is stay at home, do not travel. We collectively control today ourselves how deep and how long this crisis lasts through our own behavior. My actions impact your health. Your actions impact my health. So the order for right now is stay home, do not travel.
All right. Thanks for your patience and your time. We're having some safety concerns with the situation here with the weather and folks being outdoors. And so what we're going to do is thank everyone for calling in and for monitoring the situation online and elsewhere. And if media have follow-up questions, please follow up with the appropriate public information officer for that bureau. The city, all of our staff, are hard at work in adapting our operations, and we're here and we'll be responsive. So thank you so much for participating, and we'll be in touch. Media should follow up with public information officers for follow-up questions. Thank you.